Donald Trump is panicking as this war against Iran, which never had a plan, is spiraling out of control. After news broke that Iran is selecting a new Ayatollah, the old Ayatollah's son, Mojtaba, who is in many ways even more extreme than the old Ayatollah. Donald Trump gave an 8-minute interview just now to Axios, where Donald Trump says it is unacceptable that Iran has selected the Ayatollah's son, Mojtaba, to be the Ayatollah. Donald Trump says that any selection of Iranians' new Ayatollah must be made by Donald Trump. Trump says they are wasting their time. Khamenei's son is a lightweight, Donald Trump says. I have to be involved in this appointment, just like I did with Delcy Rodriguez in Venezuela. And Khamenei's son is unacceptable to me. We want someone that will bring harmony and peace to Iran. Sure, Donald, I think that the 300 million Shiites who are even more radicalized right now in the region because of you and your behavior and killing the old Ayatollah are like, you know who we want right now? We want anyone who's picked by Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu. I mean, do you realize that when you make statements like that, you're causing far more problems as well for the United States and other nations in that region? By the way, those other nations in the region still under attack by Iran. Explosions are now heard in Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates amidst a new wave of ballistic missile and drone strikes. You have footage over here of 2 Iranian ballistic missiles slamming into Bahrain's petroleum company refinery. Here's footage showing the impact of the Iranian ballistic missiles in Bahrain amidst this new wave of Iranian drone and ballistic missile strikes. And you can see these several large fires at the Bahrainian petroleum company right there. Here's some additional footage showing Iranian ballistic missiles at high altitude over Jordan. In the past 12 hours or so, it's believed that Iran attacked the Azerbaijan airport as well. And another Ayatollah in Iran, one of their most senior clerics, Ayatollah Javadi Amoli, just declared that the nation was on the verge of a great test and urged the shedding of Zionist blood and the shedding of Trump's blood on state television, while Iran's foreign minister Arghichi has announced or has stated Iran is not agreeing to a ceasefire. Stop putting out false information. Iran is not entering into a ceasefire. Also, Arghichi and others are calling out the Trump regime's submarine attack using torpedoes off the coast of Sri Lanka, where the U.S. sunk and what appeared to be an unarmed Iranian naval ship that was doing joint exercises, or a parade rather, inside India, and that the United States knew about this parade because the U.S. Navy was invited as well, but declined. And as part of the requirements to participate in this parade in India, Modi made it clear that that the ship couldn't be armed. And then the U.S. struck that ship. It's called the Dena, killing potentially 100 people aboard that ship. And so lots of people, calling out the United States, for that. But the United States says that's fair target, when it comes to war. Also, we're hearing more reports kind of confirming exactly what I was saying yesterday about the Kurds, that Donald Trump is trying to coerce and threaten the Kurds to do a ground invasion of Iran. To be clear, when we talk about Kurds, there's lots of different Kurdish groups. So it's not like which Kurdish group are you referring to? I don't think Donald Trump realizes the Kurdish groups, all throughout that region, and they're not necessarily all sharing the exact same ideas. But Donald Trump apparently is giving the Kurds an ultimatum. You're either with Iran or you're with us. You need to do a ground invasion. The Kurds are like, yeah, we don't want to do a ground invasion of Iran. Trump, you've betrayed us over and over again. You betrayed us during your first administration. You betrayed us during this regime recently in Syria. So yeah, we're not doing that ground invasion because you're just going to throw us under the bus again. That's why yesterday, Donald Trump then announced the Kurds are invading. He didn't announce it. He leaked it to the press that the Kurds were invading Iran, trying to provoke Iran to strike the Kurds and then force the Kurds into the war by forcing Iran to strike the Kurds by falsely leaking to state regime media, which calls itself Fox, Axios, and Israel leaking to their local media that the Kurds were invading when the Kurds were not invading yesterday. So lots of serious things taking place, right? Undisputed, America is at a war, although Trump officials and MAGA Republicans in Congress and the Senate try to deny it's a war. They call it a special military operation, which is what Putin calls his invasion of Ukraine. Serious stuff going on. America's lost service members. The Strait of Hormuz is essentially closed, right? Oil prices are skyrocketing. I mean, you see it right now. I mean, this is some of the biggest increases in gas prices, this quickly, like almost ever. So lots of problems, lots of issues. What's the commander-in-chief doing? What's Donald Trump doing right now? Well, here's what he's posting. Trump pardons 5 former NFL stars. This is what he posted. He then posted, Fine Arts Commission, which is run by Trump, gives ballroom the green light. How about this post? U.S. Justice Department hangs banner of Donald Trump at its headquarters, and it is a fascist-looking photo of soldiers marching in Washington, D.C. with Donald Trump's photo on the Justice Department building. This is a big banner of Trump on the Justice Department building. That's what Trump's posting. He's posting this. Mortgage rates fall to lowest level since 2022. When's that article from? Oh, February 19th, 2026. So Donald Trump on March 5th, while we're in a war, is posting February 19th, 2026 articles. And anybody watching this, I'm sure you would disagree with Donald Trump that housing is affordable right now and that it's easy to buy a home and easy to get a mortgage. So that's what Trump's posting. He then posts this, the golden era. Trump touts $18 trillion of investment, steel revival in North Georgia. Makes up a fake number, $18 trillion, which he claims he's getting from all of these countries. You think these countries are giving you $18 trillion? They're not. Also, I noticed this article, February 19th, 2026. So again, he's just posting old articles. Then he puts out Pete Hegseth, again, Secretary of Defense, who gives one of the cringiest speeches imaginable. Here's what Pete Hegseth says. This is how he's trying to articulate what America is doing right now by invading Iran. Play this clip.
President Trump has reestablished the Monroe Doctrine, the Trump corollary of the Monroe Doctrine, or if you'd like, for short, you can just call it the Donroe Doctrine.
More Pete Hegseth earlier today, fear-mongering about radical narco-communism, because you do know also they're using that as a pretext for the United States to invade. Well, they were invited to invade Ecuador by Ecuador's MAGA leader. We have ground troops at war in Ecuador as of 2 days ago. You're aware of that? Anyway, here's what Hegseth says. Play this clip.
Led astray by competing forces. Radical narco-communism and anarcho-tyranny, which threaten our people, borders, and sovereign lands in the name of a false sovereignty or a false peace.
And you've got MAGA Republican senators like Langford saying it's bumpy, it's difficult here, people are suffering in the United States, but it's because we're at war. We're literally at war. Oh, so we are at a war. So you admit it. Here, play this clip.
Right now, while literally we're at a war with Iran right now. So it is very important that we actually have all of our homeland security fully funded.
Then you have Congress member, the fact that you have to get them to admit that we're at a war, right? Then you have Congress member McCormick saying, this is going to be bumpy, but this is what the American people want. We want bumpy. By the way, remember when MAGA Republicans last year, when Donald Trump promised that everything was going to be great in 24 hours, that things would be amazing? Remember, they said, no. When Donald Trump's doing these tariffs against the world, it's going to be bumpy, but we're going to be sacrificing for Donald Trump. Remember they said that? Anyway, here's what McCormick said.
There's now 2 major producers of oil. The 30% of the oil reserves in the world are in Venezuela and Iran, and they will be under more favorable regimes that aren't trying to support our adversaries and destroy America. And so this is going to be bumpy in the short term. This is great for America, great for energy prices, great for energy security in the longer run. And thank God we are blessed in America with natural resources that can provide our energy and a president that's willing to unlock them.
By the way, great montage made this morning by CNN showing Trump administration officials calling the invasion of Iran a war, while Donald Trump saying it's not a war. It was Donald Trump saying it's a war, Republicans saying it's not a war on the Hill, because if it's a war, you need a war power authorization by Congress. Play this clip.
Then we may have casualties. That often happens in war.
We're doing very well on the war front.
We set the terms of this war from start to finish.
9,000 Americans have been able to leave the region since the start of this war.
Nobody should classify this as war. It is combat operations.
I wouldn't call this a war as much as I'd call it a conflict that should be very short and sweet.
I don't know if this is technically a war.
We have declared war. So if we haven't declared war, then I don't see that. The president hasn't asked us to declare war yet, but they have declared war on us.
Do you consider it a war? It's a significant military operation.
Strategic strikes are not war.
They have declared war on us. I don't believe in the semantics. We've talked about the language this morning. We're not at war right now. We're 4 days in to a very specific, clear mission, an operation.
I think Congressmember Himes puts it succinctly right here. Let's play it.
Americans are going to feel this in the pocketbook. Already you see the White House in an absolute panic over gas prices, coming up with wild ideas. Let's do a 1 year holiday on the federal excise tax of gas to bring that price down. They're just flailing for ideas because they understand that this terrible decision that they have taken is going to end this presidency. We're going to have a lame duck president for 3 years with 20 to 30% approval ratings. Now, by the way, that causes me no heartburn. Making this president a lame duck is going to be a wonderful thing for the Republic. But the cost that the American people are going to pay, both in blood and treasure, is going to be tragic. It's going to be felt in the pocketbook, and of course, it's going to have a dramatic impact on the midterms.
And then you have this Emirati billionaire, Khalif Ahmed Al Habtoor, slamming Donald Trump. This Emirati billionaire says the following: who gave you the authority, posted this morning, who gave you the authority to drag our region into war with Iran? On what basis did you make this dangerous decision? Who gave you permission to turn our region into a battlefield? He goes on to say, did you calculate the collateral damage before pulling the trigger? Did you consider that the first to suffer from this escalation will be the countries of the region itself? The people of this region have the right to ask as well. Was this decision yours alone? Did it come from the result of pressures from Netanyahu and his government? You've now placed the countries of the Gulf Cooperation Council and Arab countries at the heart of a danger they did not choose. He goes on to say, for before the ink has dried on the Board of Peace initiative that you announced in the name of peace and stability, we find ourselves facing military escalation that endangers the entire region. So where did those initiatives go? And what is the fate of the commitments made in the name of peace? Most of the funding proposed in those initiatives came from the countries of the region themselves and from Arab Gulf countries that contributed billions of dollars on the basis of supporting stability and development. And these countries have the right to ask today, where did this money go? And are we funding peace initiatives, or are we funding a war that exposes us to danger? There, he says it right there. And as Asina Tusi explains, by every credible account right now, the Islamic Republic's base has been radicalized more, mobilized more. They've been on the streets since Saturday. There are no signs of defections or regime splintering. And that's just the fact. You may not like to hear that. That's just the truth of what's happening right now. When Trump killed the Ayatollah the way he did, that did not... The consequence of that was an unpopular Ayatollah who's 85 years old is now viewed as a martyr within the community. And now his more extremist son is now going to be running the show. That's what's going down. That's just the fact. We may not like the facts, but those are the facts. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. Thanks everybody for watching.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.